Hi guys, Mr. Johnny here, and in this video I will finish off this power supply. Straight away. This, what the hell is that? No, that's not serious. I'm gonna keep it. In this video I'm gonna finish off this car stereo by installing this board instead of an original one. Well, instead of to replace an amplifier that was originally there. The board is handmade. It rocks a chip which is called TDA 2004. Why this exact chip? For the same very simple reason. The other stereo, the old one, brown one, uses this chip and it's dead there. So I killed two birds with one stone. I bought two replacement chips to replace one there and to make a board here to put in this piece of crap. As you can see, the board is quite compact and it's looking quite good. These two jumpers are where the input caps will usually be, but that board in the stereo already has decoupling caps there. You may be able to see the couple of ceramic chip caps. Those are decoupling capacitors, so there's no need to put another one there. Alright, let me put it in and we'll show you the finished result. We will do a short test and that will be it. Okay, the board now has some wires soldered to it. I cleaned it from the flux. It is now nice and clean, as you can see. It will be installed right here, where you can see that hole, something like this. Now let me solder it up and show you that of course it works, and I'm gonna test all two channels. So guys, I did what I told you I will do. I went and installed the board. Here you can see it in all its glory. I had to change a couple of parts on it, namely this and these resistors, which are in the feedback circuit, because the gain of this particular chip with those resistors was too excessive for the signal produced by this panel, so it was really nasty. So I changed it to 47 ohms. And the gain went down and everything works fine here. I also went and added this little cobbly wire, which you can see is soldered right to the pin. And what that does is it implements a mute function, or a standby. It essentially shuts down the chip. The chip in the datasheet does not say that there is such feature as a standby or a mute, but I found it. I will actually, let me find the schematic, I will show you what I did. Okay, so that's a schematic for it, and I'm gonna use a screwdriver here. So it was this resistor that I changed, this one and this one, in the feedback. By increasing their value, you decrease the gain, because it's a negative feedback. The more signal comes in here, the smaller the gain. It's a voltage divider right here. This capacitor and this capacitor is rated to be 220 microfarads, but I installed 100 microfarads. Here they are. And this one right here in the middle is this capacitor. And this is pin 3. That's a pin I hooked this wire to. Right there. So what I did is I tried to yank this pin to ground. The chip just went into standby. Awesome. This pin is called SVRR. Basically what it does is something, supply voltage rejection ratio or something like this. It doesn't really matter. What matters is when I yank it to ground, the chip goes out and you hear absolutely nothing from the speaker. And you can see the scene is on actually, but I had it on 0 volume, which does exactly the same as a mute here. You will hear it actually. Let me focus on it. Alright. Yes, there is a little click when I turn it on, because the chip kicks in and produces a little thump in the speaker by charging this capacitor, but it's not a big deal. The thump is not that big. I'm gonna move you closer to the speaker and I will crank up the volume so you will hear that thump yourself. It's nothing to write poems about. Okay, I'm gonna turn it on now. A ridiculous little... Nothing to worry about.
Так ось, якщо ми кажемо не про війну, військову частину, а по дипломатичну, то...
Let me put something there so you will see that there is plenty much drive on it.
Вона вважає, що вона добрий посередник, який от...
Whoa. That's already a mess. Alright, so let me demonstrate you the mute function here. It says mute for some reason. Absolutely nothing from the speaker, and the actual consumption when it goes down, because the chip shuts down. That's a consumption with the mute, 70 milliamps. Focus. And I'm gonna switch it off. Alright. Why did I implement it? I could have actually left it as is. And the funny thing is that if I'm gonna desolder this wire and I'm gonna press this, the mute still works. Because when you press this button, this control panel just shunts its signal to ground, so it effectively grounds the input of the amplifier. But there was problem when I switched it off like this. When I switched it on, first time I apply power, it's alright in this state. Then I turn it on. Then I switch it off. And when it goes to this display, time display, there was a nasty static in the speaker. In fact, let me show you. Okay, you can see the wire is there. I'm gonna move the speaker closer. So in short, I'm gonna apply power and you listen. As I mentioned, it's alright. Not much noise. I switch it on. It might yell right now because you can hear everything is alright, right? And here is a mute function. See, it goes to mute even though this wire is not connected. So you might say, leave it as is. Let me show you this. Now there is that hiss, and there is, well, 20 milliamps more, but it's not a big trouble. But that hiss is not good, so that's why I went and added this wire. There is existing, which you might have seen in a previous video, there is already a transistor here, which base of which is connected to the through a resistor to this ribbon cable to the pin on it, which is called mute, and that pin goes high in 3.3 volts when the mute needs to be activated. That is when the scene is off in its standby, and when you put a mute manually, or if you crank the volume down to 0. Let me connect it back and I will show you that all two channels work, and that will be it. Okay, the wire is back in place. You might have wondered what that green wire passing through the hole was doing. It was doing nothing. That's a wire this green wire, which is connected to the ground where the inputs are. And I didn't solder it to the ground because I have a power ground, which is the same ground plane connected already to this circuit. So if I were to connect this, the ground here, and then signal ground here and there, I would have created a ground loop, and that's not something you want. The sound is nice and clean as is, and I left that wire in for a simple reason. It might be acting as a little bit of shielding there. Very piss poor shielding, but nonetheless. Let's switch it on. Zero hiss, alright. Switch it on. And if I go switch it off, as I mentioned, you have zero hiss. And smaller consumption. 20 milliamps only, which is nice. Okay, let me dial in some talk radio. Alright.
Піти іншим шляхом, підтримати Україну, в тому числі літальною зброєю і тиском на Росію, це, звичайно, дасть
Let's call left channel. And the right channel is right here.
Майдану закордонних справ був гость.
All these four inputs are actually active, but the thing is that this one and this one is connected together, and so are these two. Because it's a stereo amplifier, and usually in a car there is 4 speakers. Let me show you again. So that's that. I'm happy to say that this thing is repaired and can go back to its owner. Thanks for watching. See ya.